Ms. Hoey, firstly, we're hearing once again in the last 24 hours the US president accusing China of failing to act fast enough or of being not transparent enough in its data with this virus. Two major international economies, they were at loggerheads before this health crisis. Is that relationship, though, changed by what we've seen with COVID-19?
I think the crisis in and of itself doesn't change anything fundamentally, but what it does do is bring existing political and geopolitical trends out into the open, to the surface. It acts as an accelerant, speeding up existing trends, and it's likely probably to have some unpredictable consequences as well. But I think this rivalry that you mentioned between the US and China, which was obviously already there and everybody was well aware of that, it's definitely sharpening those tensions. And we've already seen how it's done that through this propaganda war, disinformation war, trying allocation of blame for the outbreak of this pandemic and so on. So it is likely to sharpen those tensions as time goes on. And it is likely also to accelerate this trend, this shifting balance of economic power from the West to the East.
Indeed.
Over time. This pandemic is going to be with us for some time, and the world, as we know it now, will not be the same.
Indeed, when we look,
afterwards.
Sorry, Ms. Hoey, but when we look, like you're saying there, we've noticed the reliance on, where we get our goods from, notably the reliance on Chinese goods coming very clear during this crisis. Do you expect that moving forward we will see changes on that front, perhaps a move towards more local consumption patterns or something of that kind?
Yes, we can see there's already a questioning of global supply chains and their reliance on China and in some particular sectors as well. So that discussion has already started to happen, and the disruption to those supply chains in the first quarter of this year obviously had a very big impact, including in Europe, in a country such as Germany, which is very much tied in to those supply chains. So I think, yes, that debate has started, and we are likely to see some changes, and more broadly, probably a questioning and some resistance to untrammeled globalization.
Indeed, a look between the services and the manufacturing sectors. When we look at Europe, there was some criticism over a lack of solidarity, and then on the other hand, we did see some solidarity. Germany taking patients from France, for example, or medical equipment being sent to Italy from other EU states. But overall, where do you think this crisis is leaving the European Union? A lot of people are saying that it's another dangerous step for that bloc.
Yes, I think what the crisis has exposed once again is that Europe is deeply divided. It's not a true union of equal members. We can say that the EU was slow to respond to the unfolding crisis in China in the early months of this year. And it's certainly been very slow to put together any kind of pan-regional rescue package. And we saw a very stark illustration of the divisions last week in the meeting of Eurozone finance ministers, which was, more or less a month after the disease had started to ravage Italy. A month later, we see Eurozone finance ministers meeting, and after a 16-hour meeting, failing to come up with any agreed solution and having to reconvene a day later. And the final package that was agreed among Eurozone finance ministers is widely seen to be inadequate and has already been repudiated by the Italian Prime Minister. So we see these divisions between North and South, which were already there and which were evident, which have been, I guess, we've had a papering over the cracks over the past decade since the sovereign debt crisis of 2009 and afterwards. And then we had the migrant crisis of 2014 to 15, where we saw divisions again, and we've had Brexit, and now we have this crisis, which I think has resulted in some very acrimonious exchanges, accusations of a lack of solidarity, and so on.
Okay.
So I think it is likely that this is going to be damaging for the EU.